One NBA team trades for a center yesterday, but it wasn't the Charlotte Hornets. What could Charlotte have done to get that exact guy? We'll talk about that. Plus, there is an update on a new practice facility for Charlotte. We'll talk about all of that today on the Locked On Hornets podcast.
You are Locked On Hornets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
In a minute, cuz we live.
It's Locked On Hornets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. This episode is brought to you by Arcade 1-Up. You can bring home a slam dunk. Introducing NBA Jam Shaq Edition from Arcade 1-Up. Pre-order now to play with legends. Arcade 1-Up is the place for authentic gaming experiences featuring licensed retro games from the golden age of arcades. You know that's the golden age. I miss all that stuff. But at Arcade 1-Up, they can hook you up, and we appreciate them joining us on the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm Walker Mail. I've covered Charlotte sports for a variety of different outlets. Been doing that for a while now. Doug is the founder of the podcast. He's going to dress like Grandmama for a show. I saw one comment on YouTube that was not a fan. In fact, they put this comment out there. They said, come on, guys. Like, I would rather you dive deeper into some of this other content, but you guys resort to dressing in dresses and dressing like women. And I was like, dude, first of all, okay, this is Larry Johnson we're talking about. It's not a woman. It's Larry Johnson. And two, Doug would make a very pretty woman. And so I don't understand why they're hating on the YouTube comments like that.
I don't either. Well, number one, we haven't done it yet. So because of people like you who haven't liked us on Facebook. So that's number one. So get to work. Number two, why can't we do both? I don't understand. I mean, we do both.
We can do both. And you know what? That's exactly what we're going to do as soon as everybody likes us 1,000 times on Facebook. You do it 500 times, we'll bring back the Matt Geiger fact of the day, which my favorite thing is that's an incentive for people in order to like it 500 times. Let's talk about this Christian Wood trade, Doug, because now the center market, has it been set? And it's not that much of a price to give up if you want to go after Christian Wood. Let me read you the details and then allow you to give this take on it. So, Christian Wood from the Houston Rockets, long-time potential trade asset for the Charlotte Hornets or guy that they could go pursue. Christian Wood is traded to the Dallas Mavericks in exchange for the 26th overall pick, which is by far the most valuable piece going to Houston in this trade. So, 26th overall. Boban, I'm sorry, Boban, he's probably the most valuable. Boban Marjanovic, Sterling Brown, Trey Burke, and Marquise Chris. All of those players who basically don't get any playing time and the 26th overall pick going to Houston in exchange for Christian Wood and the Dallas Mavericks. Now they go after their center, which they've kind of been needing as well. You saw that in the postseason. They needed somebody down low. What do you think? I mean, kind of surprising to see that package was able to get a guy as talented, at least, as Christian Wood.
That's it?
Mm-hmm.
That's all it took?
I'm not lying to you. That's what Woj said. And Shams.
That's incredible. I mean, that's incredible, Walker, that it only took that to acquire Christian Wood. I mean, now, to me, if the Hornets don't go out and utilize that 15th pick to acquire a center at or above the level of Christian Wood, then I don't know what I don't know what we're doing here.
So I think it's interesting that there's a wide range of theories on this trade because you go towards one end of the spectrum, and I tend to agree as far as the package isn't a lot. Let's say this thing flames out, and the most you got rid of was a 26th overall pick. It does seem to indicate that this is Dallas's move to go for it and try to get beyond the conference finals. And I don't know if this is the move that gets that done. You know, they get to the Western Conference Finals, and Christian Wood's going to get you to the NBA championship. At the same time, it's a low-risk type of deal because 26th is the most valuable. You do that every single time, and it's totally okay. But it's also funny to see people are surprised that it took this little to go get Wood, and everybody still likes it from a Houston standpoint, too. I haven't seen anybody bash the Rockets because it frees up time for Alperen Şengün. You also get the 26th overall pick with an extremely young team, Jalen Green. You're building around a whole bunch of young guys down there. And so it's funny, it seems, the way people are talking, hey, it only took that much to go get a guy as talented as Christian Wood. And then it's like, well, wait, I do like what Houston did. So it's funny to see that it's a win-win when we talk about it as this big old gap. Like, wow, well, I mean, hell, I would do that 10 times out of 10 if I'm the Dallas Mavericks.
So you're telling me that a team got embarrassed in a playoff game and because of a particular weakness that they had down low.
Okay. Yeah.
And then in the offseason, they aggressively moved to use assets that they already have, future assets, to go and acquire a player that fills that particular need. That's insane.
How aggressively did they pursue?
I didn't even know you could do that.
How aggressively did they pursue it? How aggressively was it?
I didn't even know teams could do that. I've just been sitting here thinking, no, you just go out and get pieces that don't really solve the problem, and then you tell your coach to deal with it. I thought that's what you did.
So let's talk about this from a Charlotte Hornets standpoint then. What does that look like? What do you get rid of that you think legitimately lands you Christian Wood? Kelly Oubre probably is. I mean, he's getting more playing time than all those other players. And the 15th pick in Kelly Oubre. I mean, the 15th pick. If they're doing it for the 26th, then they're probably. I mean, they're doing it for the 15th too. And that's probably what it looks like if you're the Charlotte Hornets trying to go after him.
Yeah, this isn't about Christian Wood. I don't know that necessarily. I think there are better prospects out there for what the Hornets particularly need than Christian Wood. Although, Christian Wood spent some time in Charlotte and was in our development process and then moved on. There might be some leftover bad blood. We don't even know if that would have particularly worked out. And there are issues with Christian Wood, like how committed to the defensive end of the floor is he really? Is he just interested in being an offensive player, a lob threat? That would have been really fun to see, him interacting with LaMelo Ball in that way. But I don't know that it addresses the one issue that is obvious that they have. If this was a team with some center depth at all, then maybe adding Christian Wood makes sense. It doesn't. This isn't about Christian Wood. This is about watching a team do the thing that the Charlotte Hornets have needed to do for years. And all I'm saying, I'm not upset today because they didn't make that particular move. I will be upset in the future, though, Walker, if they can't get something done, because the Dallas Mavericks just proved that you could do it.
Yeah. For Christian Wood. And so this is
there are other Christian Woods out there. There are other players out there on the market right now that you can go out and if you're willing to give up the assets and have the conversation, and you can make the move. Do something.
So the wide range here, too, is interesting because I heard Sam Vecini talk about this in his mock draft episode, so I know a lot of people probably checked that out. But Sam said that broke during him and Matt Penny hosting that mock draft. He's like, yeah, Houston did a pretty good job of getting a first-round pick in exchange for Christian Wood. And some people just aren't big on Wood because of the defense, because the lack thereof. And so Dallas goes after him, and does he really protect the rim in a way that Dwight Powell and Maxi Kleber did it? Those are some of the reasons. But at the same, I get it though, right? Like, does this set the market for the Hornets to go after a center, and is that price now a little bit lower than you once thought? So for Miles Turner, we've talked about him a million times. Does that price actually get lower because of what you saw Christian Wood go for? Does the Rashawn Holmes price, now that you can go after him because of the accusations being settled, Rashawn Holmes, does that price go a little bit lower?
I really just wanted the Hornets to leak something that they were involved in. I wanted them to pull a Danny Ainge and just leak something that they were involved in this conversation and just say, well, we weren't really willing to give up the 15th. But at least I just want to know that they are at least thinking about it. If Mitch would just come out and say, well, I thought about it and I didn't want to go for Christian Wood. I know he would never do that. They never put that. It's just what I want. I want to know that the Hornets are involved in these type of conversations because there are other Woodian type names. I'm not talking about DeAndre Ayton and Rudy Gobert. That's a whole nother, those two names are so big and you'd have to give up so much. That's a whole nother tier of deal. I'm talking about names like Miles Turner, like Rashawn Holmes, like a restricted free agent like Mo Bamba or Nick Claxton. I mean, there are options here for the Hornets, and all I'm saying is I don't need them. I need it on this particular one because I didn't really think Christian Wood fit with the Hornets. I jokingly said that I wish that I would even have heard that they were in the conversation, but that's not the level. I need them to actually accomplish something and bring a center that can defend the rim, to play a lot and can catch lobs, that can play alongside LaMelo Ball.
Well, I want to discuss this in the next segment, but they have that opportunity to do so in the NBA draft. Is that enough to relieve that itch that you've had for a couple of years? So let's talk about it. Coming up next on the Locked On Hornets podcast. I want to talk about an interesting theory because there are a couple times now in the last really 2 days I've at least heard some NBA analysts, NBA draft experts say, hey, let's just settle for the 13th and 15th pick rather than just trading for a veteran because you get better value out of this 13th and 15th. Let's talk about how doable that is for the Charlotte Hornets and whether that makes sense for a team that pretty clearly wants to win right now. Let's also talk about Built Bar, though. You know how our friends at Built are always coming up with amazing new flavors. Well, this time, Built has truly outdone themselves with the new Mud Pie flavor. Doug, I know you got a box of Built Bar Mud Pies. How are they? Have you tried one yet?
Let me come back on here. Let me just tell you something.
Yeah.
I was weak last night. So usually I use the Built Bars as like it entices me to go out on a run. Okay. It's like a treat at the end of the run. And I'm a child. I just need that sort of motivation. I can't just go out and run. I need that motivation of going, I'm halfway through the run. I'm starting to feel it. The heat's getting to me. My legs are getting tired. They feel like concrete. And all I think is, okay, but when you get back home, you got that Built Bar waiting on you. Okay. That's what I normally do. Last night I was weak. And it was just sitting. I put them in the refrigerator, the mud pie. I got the mud pie, put it in the refrigerator, and I was weak. It was like 11 o'clock at night, and I just pulled it out, and I just went ham on it. They taste really good. I don't know what to tell you. They're great. They're healthy for you. It's awesome.
Of course they taste good. Not only is it just straight up chocolate, but it's rich whipped cream. You have chocolate mousse. It's smothered in 100% real chocolate, and it's topped with cookies and cream crumble. Like, that's ridiculous. And the fact that that's actually like 150 calories and only 8 grams of sugar, that's absolutely nuts. No wonder you can have a dessert at the end of your run and it actually be beneficial for you. Go to Built.com. Use promo code LOCKED15. Get 50% off of your order. Use promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at Built.com. Let's talk about the 13th and the 15th pick, how that would compare to a veteran center, coming up next on the Locked On Hornets podcast. Always appreciate you joining us on the Locked On Hornets podcast. We have an important favor to ask you. We've put together a survey so we can learn more about listeners like you and make your favorite Locked On podcast even better. This is your opportunity to tell us what you like and what you don't like about Locked On Podcast. Go to LockedOnPodcast.com/survey right now to get started. It won't take very long, and everyone that completes a survey can qualify for a chance to win one of 10 $100 Ticketmaster gift cards to take our audience survey. You can go to LockedOnPodcast.com/survey and get one of those gift cards. So pretty impressive there. Thanks for your help. Always appreciate your support. Who did we talk about you? Who was your alter ego you were going to sign up as to go get that Ticketmaster gift card? It was Doug Branson. We had you on the ones and twos. It was DJ Doug
DJ
Branson.
Doug Danson for sure.
Dancing. That's what I wanted. That's what I wanted.
I'll sign up for sure.
All right, please do that. And at least if you win, maybe you can split it with somebody here that listens to the podcast so we don't completely avoid.
Come over to my house, play the game.
Yeah.
That's not weird at all.
That sounded weird. Let's move on very quickly. That's the question I had for you, Doug, that I was kind of teasing into the first segment was, we kind of heard this from Jeremy Woo, right? Is it worth it to go after Miles Turner, or is it just better to stay with that 13th, 15th pick and use Mark Williams or Jalen Duren as the guy to be a center that gets a lot of playing time next year? Let me set this up for you. Let's set you up with a happy scale.
Okay.
1 to 10. 10 being, oh my God, I'm thrilled. This is the best offseason the Charlotte Hornets could have ever had. And 1 being, fire everybody. I hate this team. I'm doing Locked On Rockets now. Like, I'm not even a fan of the Hornets and you leave me. That's number 1. Where would you be if the Hornets select Jalen Duren, your guy, at 13, and then they go bargain bin shopping for a backup center?
Oh, let's take this one at a time. All right. Okay. And I've got some sound here to help us. Okay.
Okay. Gotcha.
So give it to me one at a time.
Okay. Jalen Duren, number 13. That's your pick.
Oh, yes.
So you get your guy. Uh-huh. But then in free agency / non-trade market, if you will, you settle for a bargain bin center that is a little Mason Plumlee-like, but just a different name, a guy that's going to give you backup minutes or split the time with Jalen Duren.
Sorry about that. That's a bad mistake.
Bad mistake.
So
I don't like that.
From 1 to 10, you end up with Duren, but you don't make that trade for a guy that you feel comfortable can come in and start helping you win right now, how happy are you with the way that they address that position at the end of the offseason?
I'm gonna need Patrick Ewing's help on this.
What kind of shot is that? Have you ever shot that shot?
Like what are we doing? We cannot go into a second consecutive season trying to comb through the $5 DVD bargain bin at Walmart for an answer at a position.
Find some decent ones there though. Sometimes, man, you got to be willing to spend some time there, but you can find some decent.
I'm
DVDs.
sorry, I don't want to find Air Bud 4 where he's like playing lacrosse or something.
Sometimes you get like a Twister, like sometimes that's there.
It's a fantastic movie. Don't knock me off topic here. I could talk about Twister all day. It's a fantastic movie. The CGI, some of the CGI holds up. I'm just going to say that. If you go back and watch the second Matrix, none of that CGI holds up. I don't know how they did it. But those folks that made Twister made a movie that held up over the years. Here's the point. You can't go into a second season flying around like the cow from Twister with no ability to get your feet on the ground or protect the rim because you don't have an answer there that is immediate. I just and I don't want them to hamstring a new coach. They already hamstrung James Borrego in that final year, and he was doing everything, messing with rotations, trying to figure out anything he could to work around what was obviously a problem in the regular season. And I don't want them to do that to Kenny Atkinson and not give him a fair shot to compete.
Okay, but Jalen Duren, who is the guy that's kind of falling, by the way, and I want to get to that in just a second. But if he's that guy, Doug, then maybe you can compare him to the equipment that Twister, the scientists in the movie, they used to put up in the tornado to learn everything about the storm. So it doesn't work a little bit at first. Like, it's going to be reliable. It's going to be good. You know that. But it doesn't work a little bit at first, and then you just got to give it a kickstart. It's a little dangerous, but you give it a little kickstart, then boom, you learn everything you need to know about that, and now you have so much more knowledge going towards the future. Is Jalen Duren enough of that Twister project to allow you to be successful in the future? And is this year enough time? It's not too much. It's the Goldilocks time, just right, for you to go ahead and say, we're not going to give up assets for another center to go trade forward out there on the market.
No, you're not, because they need something immediate, because the tornado and this weird analogy that we have cooked up between Twister and the situation that the Hornets find themselves in, the tornado, the giant F5 that's coming for this rural town, is LaMelo Ball eventually being able to enter free agency and choose whether or not he wants to stay in Charlotte. And I think the commitment to arguing for LaMelo Ball to stay needs to start this year with Kenny Atkinson. But that's the perfect thing. If you get Jalen Duren at 13, then you've hired another player development coach, so you can be confident that that's going to at least benefit Jalen somewhat. And then you get to take that risk and move the 15th pick to find something more solid for the regular season. To me, that would be dream scenario for the Charlotte Hornets.
Yeah, if you can find something for the right value, then fine. That's always the caveat when we talk about trade market.
They can. That's what I'm telling you, Walker. They can, because this whole Christian Wood thing from the first segment proved it. If they have the will to go out there and sacrifice future assets and do something to compete this season, there are names out there that they can go after. And if they don't do it, I will once again, come on this podcast for a second straight season and have to tell everyone that this front office is committing franchise malpractice.
But if they do that, the 26th pick is very different from the 15th, which is clearly the biggest thing of value. Because if we got rid of our end of the bench guys, like if we gave up Isaiah Thomas, and we don't even have something comparable to what the Mavericks had. We don't have a whole bunch of veterans at the very end.
No, you have something better. You have something better. You have PJ Washington.
No, don't get rid of PJ. Don't do that. That would be malpractice for the Hornets if they went and got a Christian Wood type. I get your point.
Yeah, well, you're right. Okay, clarify. I don't mean PJ Washington for the Christian Wood, Rashawn Holmes, Miles Turner level. That's, PJ has exceeded his it would have made sense before last season to do something like that for a Miles Turner or PJ Washington. That made a lot of sense. Now that makes less sense. But a PJ Washington to get into the PJ Washington 15, something else to get into elite territory with like a Rudy Gobert or a DeAndre Ayton, to me that makes more sense.
Right.
But the point is they've got the tools if they're willing to utilize them.
So here's my thing, man. Like the more you look at just the importance of the draft, for instance, I know that it's not completely apples to apples. I get that. But Memphis, they've drafted so well, and they were kind of on a fast track because they drafted so well to be in the position they were, given Golden State the business in a couple of those contests. New Orleans, they traded, right? They actually made something happen going after CJ McCollum, but it's not like they've been phenomenal at hitting in the draft for 3 years now. Like their draft pieces come from hitting on Herb Jones. I said Herb like it's an actual thing you use in the kitchen. Herb Jones.
In the kitchen?
Cooking in the kitchen. That's what we want the Charlotte Hornets to do. You also had Zion, but he didn't even play. And then you drafted well enough to put yourself in position to actually do some nice enough things in the postseason. Point being, can Jalen Duren or Mark Williams help you immediately? I lean more towards yes, not that you want him to be the sole center starting and have to rely on somebody that young so much, but it's not completely neglecting that spot anymore, right? Like if you don't draft a center and you don't trade one or sign one that you're comfortable with, then all hell breaks loose and we're angry at the Hornets. But in that scenario I gave you, at least you got an awesome guy that we love in this draft class. And that's what would make me feel comfortable enough. If it takes a year before he's really starting to cook, then okay. Like I think that's a little bit, enough time where everybody else, is improving around you, and then they can help you get to the postseason. At
that point, you're really banking on Kenny Atkinson coming in.
Yeah.
And establishing a brand new identity and getting everyone to buy into it and getting players that didn't buy into it last season to all of a sudden buy into it. That's a big risk. We just don't know what the internal improvement defensively will be for Miles Bridges, for LaMelo Ball. Can you get Terry to play 10-15% more defense than he did last season? I think those are all big question marks. And so I'd rather them just go and help out the defense. You help out the defense by getting a rim protecting center. Okay.
Look, if the value's there,
I want to talk about Jalen Duren because he's falling right now, and I'm looking at these mock drafts, and these mock drafts that were 2 months ago saying Duren a lock at 6, a lock at 5. All of a sudden are saying, whoa, the Hornets at 13. That could be a floor for Jalen Duren, and I'm getting excited because I couldn't be higher on a prospect in this entire draft. In fact, I'm ready to make an announcement, Walker. I'm ready. We're a week away. I can't believe we're a week away from the NBA draft. This is probably the latest that I've done this, okay? Every year, I come on this show and I give out a rose to a prospect that I'm absolutely in love with, that I want to spend the rest of my life with. It's a bachelor rose. I want my whole credibility on this sports universe to be tied to this player.
Okay.
And it's gone to some great players. Let me tell you, don't go look it up, but I'm just going to say I'm like 9 for 9 on these roses. Okay. And 10 for 10 is going to go to Jalen Duren. Okay, Walker. Yeah. The more I study this guy, the more I hear about this guy, I can't believe he's going to fall to 13. This is not a falling star scenario. I want to make that clear because I saw some commenters when I talked about Shaedon Sharpe say, sort of insinuating, a little nicely, but insinuating that I was being a little hypocritical on the Shaedon Sharpe discussion because I have in the past said I don't like the falling star. What I don't like is on draft night, a player that everybody thought was going at X ends up going at Y, and it's a huge gulf. The Noah Vonleh situation. Everyone thought Vonleh at 4. It was a lock. All of a sudden, he's available at 9. Why? This is not that situation. Jalen Duren is now, as we approach draft, as things start to become a little bit more clear, as other teams' intentions start to be a little bit more clear, Jalen Duren is slowly making his way down to the Charlotte Hornets at 13, and I would love that pick.
Well, and the thing is, I don't even know how much of it is falling because people are finding things they don't like about Jalen Duren. The fact of the matter is, with this draft class, a lot of people are calling it historically bad. And you also have such a wide range of opinions on, like, prospects.
Really? They're calling it historically bad?
Yeah. There are people who do not like this draft class for sure. They're saying it's as weak as we've seen in, quite a while.
Here's my theory. Can I give you my quick theory on that?
Yes,
I feel like Well, first of all, I feel like a lot of this draft analysis stuff is voodoo science. Like, it doesn't make any sense to me. Like, I just feel like people get on the mic and say things that don't make any sense. Okay. And that's my job. I feel jealous. They're taking my job.
I was about to say.
But I think that in drafts where there isn't a clear number one, people say this is a bad draft. It's like automatic. If there's a clear number one pick, people are like, oh yeah, there's a clear number one pick. And then like 2 to 7, there's real talent here. And then when there's debate about the top 3, which you have this year with Holmgren and Jabari and, whoever, then people say, well, it's a bad draft.
Yeah, I mean, maybe. I do think
it's my theory.
Yeah, I really like the top 4 in this draft class. I think I include Jaden Ivey in that tier 1. I think he's awesome, but we haven't talked a lot about him because the Hornets don't have any shot unless they trade up, and they're not trading up that high. But I do think that there are some guys for the Hornets to get at 13 and even 15 that I still really like. And so when we talk about that, for instance, discussing Jalen, why he's falling, there's such a wide range of opinions on who should go at 6 and who should fall to 13, 14, 15 that I don't necessarily know if it's because they dug up Duren's history and they don't like it. Oh, he's really young. Oh, now that I've watched this game and this game, I have motor questions. I don't really think that's happening. It's just you can go to every team and make a case for another prospect because there's not a consensus once you get to a certain spot in this draft. So it's not like people are hating on Jalen Duren. Maybe Mark Williams has risen up because the combine measurables are crazy, right? He's a huge dude. He's athletic. It's not like he's crazy immobile, and he's that tall, and he has that standing reach. So Jalen Duren falling would be great. I think he's best player available, and he fits a need. Mm-hmm. And that's another thing I want to make this clear, too, because I know, when ranking the prospects on who I want the Hornets to take, I would have Jalen Duren 1, and I would have Mark Williams 2. I love Malachi Branham. I love Jalen Williams. I love Johnny Davis if he falls. There's a chance that could happen, right? AJ Griffin could be sliding. Those guys are all great. But I'm still taking one of those centers. And it very much so looks on the surface that, well, Walker's reaching for a 5 because they've desperately needed one there for Charlotte for quite some time. I'm not like reaching for Walker Kessler. I'm not reaching for even a Christian Coloco, who I really like. Trade back and get
you're
Coloco.
Loco for Coloco. We know that.
Well, we can. Yes, I am. That's fine. I'll go in the late first round, and then I'll be loco for Coloco. But I'm not going to take him at 13 or 15. I want to stress that Mark Williams is not just like, oh, all right, cool consolation prize. He's good. I really like Mark Williams. I don't like him as much as Jalen Duren. I think the passing is a separator. I think there's still some more perimeter movement there that he can, give you. I think he's a better fit with LaMelo because he's just going to finish lobs at a thunderous. Like, that's going to be so much fun. Run the floor and just dunk on somebody because LaMelo sets you up. That's going to be great. But Mark Williams has a lot to work with that is also like maybe you can make the case for him being best player available at 13. I'm cool with either one of those guys, and that's why I'm kind of like, if they can just get their hands on one of those players, yeah, I'd still like to have a center I'm more comfortable starting this year out there on the veteran market, but it's not a bad thing to be set up for the future at that spot because they haven't been for so long now.
I'm going to be even clearer. If Jalen Duren is available at 13, there's not a single player that I can think of reasonably that would be in there, including Mark Williams, that would be best player available. If you look at the body type, look at the improvement from high school to college. The reason he's not a top 3 pick is because he wasn't dominant. In college, people want to see guys come out and be dominant, and he wasn't. And so, but it's coming because he's young. So I think there's some of that. But look at how easy it is for him, both on the defensive end and on the offensive end, to stride from 3-point line to rim. I mean, it's I bring this name up a little too much probably, but it's Giannis-like. Okay, I'm just saying I feel like this player. I think Duren has the ability in a few years in the right system, given the right opportunity, which I think you've got a new coach who's going to give fresh eyes to everyone. I think he has the opportunity not only to be an all-star, I think he's got an opportunity to be an all-NBA player. And in whatever, if this is a bad draft, a weak draft, I think Jalen Duren presents the one opportunity to get in there and steal and look back 3 years from now and go, wow, how did that guy fall to the Hornets at 13?
One more question. If Jalen Duren is gone, 13 comes on the board, you have Mark Williams and some other guys. Do you consider Mark Williams the must-be pick there? Or would you rather take somebody else like a swing guy, maybe, I don't know, whoever else you like, but, during pretty clearly BPA, is Mark Williams your pick at 13, or would you rather go after somebody else?
I think it would be my pick at 13. I don't know if it's going to be the Hornets pick at 13. I don't know. I still feel like I still have this weird feeling that we're just destined to draft Ochai Agbaji. Like I don't know. I'm just saying it's just a weird feeling. I don't know where it's coming from. I can't. This is not draft analysis. There's no rumors. I'm not hearing anything. Just have this weird feeling that the Hornets are going to come away with Agbaji somehow. Also, I think you don't like Walker Kessler because you share a first name, which I get. I'm totally suspicious of people named Doug, like immediately. It takes me.
Like you wanted Vonleh because you didn't want McDermott.
That's right. You're exactly right. When somebody comes up to me and says, "Hey, my name's Doug," I'm immediately, I don't know why. I think it's the sense that like they might be trying to like a doppelganger situation where they're trying to murder me to become the best Doug. Mm-hmm. I have that sense. And now if my name was like Mark or Michael, I mean, Doug's not like a crazy uncommon name, but it's not, sort of the, in the American pantheon of names, it's probably, mid-tier. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's, if I had one of those names, I don't think I would be immediately suspicious of another Mark or Michael, but Doug's totally suspicious.
Two things. Yeah. If you have a unique name like that, you can probably afford to be a little bit more selective. Hey, there's only room in this town for one Walker. But if it's anything like the graphic has shown this entire segment, then there probably is enough room because my name's Nada Edwards. And I didn't realize that until this point. So yeah, I'll just go by
fix it
Nada.
In post. Don't worry. You're commenting on this right now, and no one will ever know.
That's fine. So I look like the idiot. That's fine. I'm sure you can do that. That's going to be my point. Anytime I look like an idiot, I don't care if I actually said it. I'm just going to blame it on you for what you did in post. All right.
Fair enough.
Let's move on. Coming up next on the Locked On Hornets podcast, we'll give you an update on what's taken place and whether it's actually going to happen regarding the Charlotte Hornets' new practice facility plans. Not before we talk about Arcade 1-Up, though. Already talked about the retro games. I messed up. Boom shakalaka. I can't be Tim Kitzrow.
There you go.
Can't do it. I'm sorry, Tim. It's a lot harder than it looks. We have big news. The one, the only NBA Jam is back.
He's on fire.
How angry do you think they're going to be at me for messing up just an iconic video game slogan? I apologize. Arcade 1-Up, the leader in at-home retro arcade games, not only bringing the best game ever back, but they've made it bigger than ever with a, wait for it, Shaq Edition machine. People are obsessed with NBA Jam. I'm thrilled to tell our listeners that you can once again play hoops with NBA legends in this arcade classic. You can jump clear across the court just like usual. You can set the ball on fire, and one of the first sports games ever to feature real and digitized NBA licensed teams. No fouls, no free throws. It's so good. No quarters required. Compete with friends and family through all new Wi-Fi leaderboards, making you more connected than ever. Pre-order now from arcade1up.com. That's arcade1up.com for an estimated early September ship date. Arcade 1-Up is the place for fun. They've got even more classics like Golden Tee, Mortal Kombat, many others starting at just $399. Check this out, too. They're giving away an NBA Jam t-shirt, Shaq Edition t-shirt to a Locked On listener. Enter for a chance to win a game console for your man cave at arcade1up.com/lockedon. That's arcade1up.com/lockedon. You've got till July 8th to enter to win NBA Jam Shaq Edition console. Don't miss out. Enter today. Who are you going to play with? Let's talk about that practice facility coming up next on the Locked On Hornets podcast. I'm not going to attempt Boom Shakalaka again. I'm just going to start going straight into the read without the slogan. I apologize. Arcade1up.com. Doug, I know we have some updates on the practice facility. The city approved this plan. Why don't you give the people some of the updates that took place over the past week?
Yeah, essentially, I mean, the lease for the Charlotte Hornets to play in Uptown at the Spectrum Center was extended to 2045. So my child will live in a world for a long time to come that includes the Hornets in Charlotte. I think that's really important to fans who are about to make some decisions about whether to really invest in this team. I'm sure a lot of fans have already done that with LaMelo Ball's continued ascension to stardom. They're already going to be really invested in this team. But I think it gives them a sigh of relief to go, hey, at least until 2045, which just seems forever away, this team is not going to have to deal with any questions about them moving. important because, I mean, there are always whispers of new expansion opportunities in Seattle and Vegas. Crossing my fingers that hopefully maybe Nashville gets a team at some point. But we don't want that team to be the Charlotte Hornets. We want the Hornets to stay in Charlotte. And so some important maneuvers there. It also includes an agreement to build a new practice facility. Now, here's where I have a little bit of a question mark. That practice facility is going to be built somewhere near the property that is currently occupied by the Charlotte Transportation Center. And so the question that still remains, it still has to be discussed and approved by the Charlotte City Council, is if that practice facility is going to be built on top of where the Charlotte Transportation Center currently resides. It's an important transportation hub for many citizens of Charlotte to get not only into and out of the uptown area, which is what Charlotte, for the folks that don't live in Charlotte, it's what they call the downtown area. They call it uptown. It's a long story. Don't worry about it. And it's not only important for people who get in and out of that area, it serves as sort of the hub for the bus network system that goes all over the city. So the plans are either to put it beside the current building or to raise that building, that is the Charlotte Transportation Center, and put it underground. But my only question is it going underground to be a state-of-the-art facility that's going to serve the community, or is it being put under the ground to hide it away because they want to turn that whole district into an entertainment district and they don't want what comes with public transportation? So that would be my question.
Well, and I've seen draw-ups of this, and the plans look good. I just don't know exactly how it's all going to unfold. Who knows how accurate it's going to be from the plans that they're putting out there right now. You would think that they would want that center to look really good because they want people to come to the entertainment center. It's only going to serve as a deterrent if they don't do everything they can to make that place comfortable, that place as state-of-the-art as possible. So hopefully they're thinking about all of that. And as far as we know, last time we talked about this topic, it was in consideration. Now it's signed off on. But the funding approach they were taking was to take the tourist tax dollars, right? Instead of just the income tax within the city. So they're taking tourist dollars from, taxis, hotels, things like that. And I think that is the funding approach that they are going to go with, which is something I like here too. The other thing is, this is going to be Charlotte's, right? Like when you compare this to the Carolina Panthers, where David Tepper wants you to what are you laughing at? Like, what? We don't want to compare it to Carolina?
No, it's such a good point because, you brought up you're beginning to bring up a great point. I'm sorry I interrupted because I'm just laughing. I have to laugh at the Panthers. Wearing the Panthers hat today on the show, but I had to laugh at just how bad they messed up the practice facility on their end in Rock Hill. So if you don't know, they tried to build. They didn't try. They were halfway through building this huge facility in Rock Hill, South Carolina, because the Panthers are the Carolina Panthers. It's supposed to be North Carolina, South Carolina. This was going to be their move, kind of into supporting South Carolina. And the whole deal gets nixed because I don't know why, because Tepper didn't want to pay for it. I don't know. He's a billionaire. Just build the practice facility.
Yeah, now he's getting sued, and that's not even the point I was going to bring up, even though it's a good one that you bring up, right? Because all of the Rock Hill because the Hornets.
And again, this is a huge upset, by the way. If you've been following this franchise for a long time into the Bobcats era, and even before that, the fact that they moved to New Orleans because nobody liked the owner and the owner couldn't figure it out with the city to get a new uptown arena. The huge upset that the Charlotte Hornets franchise is the most healthy and stable and non-dysfunctional franchise in Charlotte. It's crazy.
It really is a huge upset. And after the whole Jerry Richardson scandal took place, and now you bring in David Tepper, my point was going to be in the fact that when Tepper talks about if you want a new Carolina Panthers stadium, then you're going to have to want it and by paying for it. And he come up with this funding approach where he pays a third. Regardless, you're paying for that to give David Tepper something. You're doing him a solid.
A billionaire.
Right. And by the way, the richest owner in the NFL and one of the richest owners in all of sports. You're
Not
doing
anymore.
him a solid.
I think the Denver Broncos guy is like the Walmart cat.
Yeah.
Is now the rich. But yes, before that, yes.
The point, but yes, to try to bring this all back, we've gone off on a couple of different tangents.
I just want to keep
The
you
original
factually
point
accurate, Walker. I
is-
just want to protect
Yes.
you as the professional radio person on this show. This is my job, is to come in here and interrupt you
Yeah.
to make sure that you stay on the record and factual.
Thank you. I'm trying to be factual. The city of Charlotte is going to own this. This benefits the city. You're helping out the city with this money. You're not helping out Michael Jordan specifically, right? Like, this is something that stays here. This is a practice facility that stays here. And it's not even coming out of your pocket necessarily, because it's coming out of people's pockets that visit the city, or the tourist dollars, where David Tepper, that funding approach is coming from the actual city, the people that live here. And it's giving him the stadium to continue to profit, because economically, long term, there's evidence to show that it's really not all that beneficial. Right? Like that is the big, huge, substantial, meaningful difference between these two funding approaches from the two professional sports teams in town. So
Here's what I'd
anyways,
like to
there you
see.
go.
If they do get this practice facility built, okay? They've got a practice facility already it's in the Spectrum Center. It sits off of the Spectrum Center. I want that area turned into our version of the Deer District. So I have this dream that LaMelo
cool.
Ball gets the Hornets into that sphere, and they don't really have a place where, because they've never been there. I guess if they had gotten there in the past couple of years, they would have figured it out. I guess there's that place when you walk down those stairs where the sort of alternate entrance is. I guess that sits
To
directly
the
across from
epicenter
the
is what are you
Charlotte
talking about? Oh, Spectrum Center. Spectrum. Yeah. Gotcha.
that sits directly across from where the Charlotte Transportation Center is now. There's that little sort of area, but it's not very big. So I want them to turn that practice facility into the gathering place for fans. I think that would be really cool.
One of the
A
funniest
free idea, Charlotte Hornets.
One of the things we didn't mention last time we talked about this was now the Hornets aren't going to have to deal with closing the blinds every single time they want to use their practice gym. They're not going to have fans trying to sneak in and get the best angle where you can maybe see one player go get a loose ball that goes out of bounds, because they don't let you watch practice. It's funny because the idea was to have all these windows open, maybe to get fan engagement. Hey, new expansion team, Charlotte Bobcats, we're back, baby.
And Clifford
NBA
came
back.
in and said, "Shut those blinds."
Well, and it's not like Borrego is opening them up, and so when you look in there, you barely see anything, and then they don't love it anyway. So I imagine there's going to be some more privacy, because the Hornets would request it. So there you go. I do like that. I do like crossing Spectrum Center, though, and seeing people try to get the best sneak peek they possibly can. All right, that'll do it. Long one. That'll do it for Locked On Hornets. We appreciate you hopping on with us. Make sure your second listen is Locked On NBA Big Board. Host Rafael Barlow from NBA Draft Junkies and author of the NBA Big Board newsletter is joined by Richard Stamen, Sam Ferris, and Leif Tulin, giving fans an in-depth look into the NBA draft, the mock draft, and player rankings. And of course, Big Boards too. It's free and it's available wherever you get your podcast. I think David Walker is set to join us tomorrow for a fun Friday. He made Doug save his NBA draft hat takes, so he didn't drop them in this episode. We will be dropping those. Don't say no. Don't do anything. Don't give it up. Save it for the show. Sips, right? Do that. We're going to do it tomorrow with David Walker. Fun Friday, Hive Live edition. Make sure you're there on the Locked On Hornets podcast.